Hey, it's Dead Guy Cardboard. I picked up a bunch of Colgan's chips at the most recent REA auctions. I won two lots, and I was just excited to pick these cards up. There's 74 graded cards in total. It's not necessarily my plan to complete the set in PSA graded cards, although I think at this point I have a ton of them now. But the reason I wanted to get after these two lots is they had some very rare variations in those lots, and I guess someone was selling off their entire Colgan's chips set, um, broken into different lots. Each lot was broken into grades. So I won the PSA 2 lot and the PSA 4 lot. Although I don't really care too much about grades, and I don't think most people that collect Colgan chips care about grades. They really care about just finding those scarce cards. But it just so happened that the PSA 4 and the PSA 2 lot had some really scarce cards in it. Just to kind of show you the scale of what I hauled in. I guess some background is that in terms of scarcity, there's scarcity lists of 1 to 5, 1 being the easiest and 5 being the hardest. And I kind of broken this up into, this is 1, the easiest. These are all 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. And there's only 10 Colgan's chips that are ranked 5 as the hardest. But although these 4s could be, some of these could be grouped into category 5 being extremely scarce, and then 3s are also pretty tough to come by. So I don't want to show all these cards, all 74 of these cards would take quite a while, but I'll show some of the key cards from this lot, and maybe just sort of explain why some of these are important. So this is an Addy Joss Hall of Famer. This is really easy to come by, relatively speaking. This is a 1 in scarcity, but yeah, Josh is a Hall of Fame pitcher. I got this Tinker. I got Chance. I did not get the Evers. I don't have the Evers a chance to Tinker, but Home Run Baker, another Hall of Famer. And then this is a really interesting card I picked up. I discovered a new variation in this set. I mean, the set came out in 1909. As far as I know, this hasn't been documented. Some of these cards have very slight variations in terms of the name and the city. So this is the one I picked up in a lot. Then I noticed I had this one as well, and you can see that the N in this variation is closer to his shoulder versus the N is higher up, and the Montreal is a little bit further away than this Montreal. So this is, at least as far as I know, this is the first, I guess, cataloged representation of this variation. Although I looked on eBay, and both these variations exist on eBay currently. So I don't think they're particularly hard to come by. I just don't know if it's been noted anywhere in checklists. So that was a kind of a cool find. And then this is a card I've been after for the longest time. This is Harry Hooper's True Rookie card. Harry Hooper is not featured in the T206 set. The set came out in 1909, and this is his very first appearance on any kind of form of card. But why this is his True Rookie card is he also has this card in the sets. This is the Boston American League card. This is the team he actually played for, the Boston American League. The Boston National League, he did not play for. This is a mistake, and they corrected it. So this most likely came first. And this is ranked 3 in terms of the rarity scale out of 5. I think this is honestly should be ranked 4. You don't ever see these come up, whereas I've seen several of the Boston Americans come up. And they're both kind of ranked 3, but I would rank this 4. But super excited to pick that card up. The lot also came with some other Hall of Famers, like Tris Speaker, although I'll probably be selling the 2. I had this 1 that I kind of like better, even though it's a 1. But Another great looking card. This is an upgrade. This is the Waddell St. Louis variation. I still need the Newark variation and the Minneapolis variation. I think the Minneapolis Waddell was the only one not featured in the REA auction in terms of the set. There's about, I think I want to say like 309 total cards in the sets, and almost every single one was listed, except most were listed as lots. So I could, only afford to go after 2 lots, and it was not cheap. Anyway, this is the St. Louis variation. Not too hard to come by. It's rank 3, but a lot of people are after Rube Waddell. This is an upgrade for one that I have. This looks better. Iron Man McGinnity. I already had this card, but this is actually slightly better than the one I currently have or had before. Even though this is a 2. I think there's some paper loss, so maybe I'll eventually upgrade this guy. And then Roger Bresnahan. And then I'm going to get into the 4s and the 5s in terms of scarcity. These are ultra rare cards. Starting off with this one, which I think should be probably ranked in the 5th, the hardest scarcity level, but it's ranked 4 in most in this checklist that I follow. And it's the Larry Gardner New York variation. So much tougher than his other variation. And I won that one too. It's somewhere in this stack of cards, which I don't know if I necessarily... Oh, here it is. It's much scarcer than the Boston variation. The Boston variation is not too hard to come by, but this New York variation is very tough. You can see this one's a little more punched in. And then got the Matty McIntyre Chicago variation, another very tough card. He has a Detroit variation, but the Chicago variation is hard to come by. Mickey Doolin, pretty tough card to come by. This is the only card he has in the set, and other team variations. But some of the Philly cards tend to be pretty tough. Rowan Cincinnati, which you'll see a little bit later. There's a scarcer card than this, but this is a fairly tough card to come by. Tim Jordan has 3 variations in the set. Some players have multiple variations. He has a Brooklyn, which is very common. I have it somewhere here in the stack. And then he has a Louisville, which is tough. And I think he also has an Omaha, which is also very hard. I don't know if this is that hard of a card, but Waller, Jersey City. I've seen a few of these, so I don't know if this is ranked 4th, but in terms of the hardest card to come by. But this is ultra scarce. You could probably lump this into the 5th ranking of hardest to come by. This is the Jimmy Austin St. Louis variation. The New York variation isn't too hard to come by. And I'll probably be fine with this version, even though it's extremely miscut. You can see the border that it was kind of cut through. But you just don't see these cards anywhere. That's what's exciting about this set is sometimes you come across these very rare cards. You get them for next to nothing. In this case, I had to pay quite the premium because it was an auction house and I had to buy the whole lot. But sometimes you can find these rare variations for not a whole lot of money. But sometimes these rare variations can go for $500, $600. Just give you an idea of what some of these common players with variations can go for. This is Getz, Indianapolis. This is a scarce variation. I think it's a Boston variation, I believe, is a more common one. And we had Wiseman. This one is severely miscut. But I don't think I have the other cards on hand. But yeah, I think this is the correct variation. So he has another variation where it's a different photo with the wrong Wiseman. And then this is the Killian Detroit variation. There's also a Toronto variation. This is the harder one. The Toronto one is somewhere in here. I don't necessarily have to go through them all, but here's the New York awesome variation. You get the idea. Well, here's actually one that's ranked 3 that I think should be ranked higher. This is the Bates Cincinnati variation. And then Kansas City. This is the Patsy Flaherty. Fairly tough card to come by. We got Sid Smith, Atlanta. So these are all 4th in terms of the top 5 hardest cards. These are tough cards. Jack Dunn, Baltimore. Jack Dunn discovered Babe Ruth. Pinkering, Louisville. He has 3 variations in the set. Although I don't think Louisville is that hard, to be honest with you. He has a Omaha, which is in a Minneapolis, which I think are harder, and then Ferguson, Boston. All right, now for the really, really, really tough cards. So like I think I mentioned before, there's a ranking of ranked 5 in terms of the hardest. There's 10 cards considered to be the hardest cards in the set. Now again, there's a couple that I just showed that I think could probably be lumped in there, but generally speaking, these are what people consider to be some of the hardest cards in the set. I won 5 of the 10 in this auction, which is crazy. I mean, and this is the Rudy Hulswit Chattanooga variation. These Chattanooga cards are super, 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 super tough. I have this other variation. He has a much, much, much more common variation, which is the St. Louis, but the Chattanooga is scarce. I mean, I'm talking like there's probably less than 10 of these cards I'm showing right now. And then we have the George Shrim Birmingham. His more frequently seen card, which is still fairly tough, is the Buffalo version. But the Birmingham one is scarce. Let's save this one for last. And then Rowan, Philadelphia. I showed the Cincinnati version before, but the Rowan, Philadelphia is super tough. Although this is the second card I've owned of this, but it was in the lot. And then this is a card I've been after for a while. Harry Kovaleski, the Chattanooga variation. Again, Chattanooga cards are extra scarce. And then this is the hardest Hall of Famer to find in the entire Colgan chip set. It is the Elmer Flick Toledo variation. He also has a Cleveland variation, and that's a pretty tough card too, but the Flick Toledo is considered to be the hardest Hall of Famer to find in this Colgan's chip set. And I think I would consider Waddell Minneapolis variation to be the second hardest, but yeah, this is a card that's eluded me for a number of years. I've seen a couple pop up, but yeah, very happy to pick it up. Loving these cards. Worth picking up a couple to see if you like them. They're kind of the size of a silver dollar, so they're bigger than quarters. But they just, I think what I like about the Colgan chip set is I wanted to find a pre-war set to collect, because I never collected entire pre-war sets. And it's a set that could take me a long time. It's much more challenging than the T206 set, if you don't count the big 4. But there's some cards in here that are scarcer, or almost as scarce as the big 4. Maybe not the Joe Doyle era, but certainly just much scarcer than the Plank and Honus Wagner cards. Like this one's pretty tough, and these cards I just showed are just very hard to come by. So it's a fun set to collect, because yes, sometimes you're going to be paying multiple hundreds of dollars for some players you never heard of and a different team variation, but it's kind of cool to pick up cards that are, much scarcer than some tough variations you would see in maybe an E91 set or a T206 set that typically go for less money. Anyway, enough of my rambling. Hope you enjoyed looking at some of these Colgan's chips, and yeah, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and I can also send anyone the checklist that has this different scarcities, because there's not a whole lot of information out about Colgans, and I'm trying to spread some knowledge about a set that not a lot of people know unless they have to dig very, very, very hard on Net 54.